All right, all right. Story number three. Story number three. Metro Boomin. Metro Boomin. I made a playlist about this battle, right? And I call it Rap World War III, right? It has all the tracks from First Person Shooter down to, and it ends with BBL Drizzy. It has the original BBL Drizzy where Metro Boomin took the sample in the middle, right? It's almost like an interlude. And then the whole playlist ends with Metro Boomin. And so obviously Metro Boomin is an integral part of this beef. One of the things that Drake says on Family Matters is, I think he says, the shit with Future makes me sick to my stomach. We ain't never really been through it. Leland Wayne is an effing lame, so I know he had to be an influence. And so that's Metro Boomin. And, you know, there's conversations that Metro Boomin might have been the one to spark all of this because of a personal interaction with Drake, and then, or his girlfriend. Everything around Drake seems to have something to do with somebody's girlfriend or woman or wife, somewhere in there. And Drake, you know, one of the critical moments of this battle was when Drake was on the Kickstream talking about tweeters and deleters. And he was talking about Metro because Metro was critical about a Grammy nomination that Drake received in a year where Metro's project, Heroes and Villains, if I'm not mistaken, was the biggest, if not one of the biggest, if not definitely one of the best projects to come out that year. So Metro Boomin is obviously at the core of this battle. And he did an interview. It looks like he's on a panel, a Forbes panel, sponsored by Forbes. And they asked him about the Drake and Kendrick Lamar beef. So let's take a look what he says.
On both sides.
I feel like the competition is great for the game. You know, hip hop has always been more of a competitive genre. You know, even if just keeping it on music and it's like not serious how everybody tries to make it. You know what I'm saying? It's just about that. Because also with hip hop, there's a lot of ego involved, a lot of, you know, so it's really like you're supposed to feel like you're the best. Everybody from the highest to the lowest guy, you're supposed to at least feel like you're the best. So,
right, and that is a core thing that's at the foundation of hip hop. Competition is at the foundation of hip hop. Every element, every graffiti artist is trying to, you know, have their tags or their masterpieces or whatever they're bombing be the most prominent. Breaking is literally in the Olympics. DJs, you know, those are wildly competitive. You can go to DJ battles all the time, and MCs. It's at the core of what it is. You know, there's a lot of people who tell me, well, you know, you can't control how someone else is going to respond to a track like Control. You know, someone, you know, it's, you know, you can't, of course Drake will be upset by that. And when people say that stuff, I feel like they're probably not fans of hip hop, and they're probably kind of far from hip hop, and they're thinking about it more so in a rap music, from a rap music standpoint, or this is my favorite artist standpoint, or, you know, whatever this version of the culture that's been most prominent on social media and online the past 15 years, 20 years, right? I feel like they probably fall into that box or are pretty disconnected from the ethos of this culture. And so, you know, so they react to Control differently. But, you know, Control is a great example of what Metro Boomin is talking about. You know, this is just what the culture is. It is about competition. You know, who's the best? And everybody's supposed to feel like that. Everybody's supposed to feel that way. I mean, I even think about that. A couple of weeks ago, we covered Academic saying he's the greatest living journalist of all time. And, you know, I understand why he would say that and believe that. I think everybody needs to believe that. Whether or not it's true is a different conversation. Whether or not there's a debate around it, different conversation. But if you're going to be in this space, you got to have thick skin. you have to believe that you are the guy in order to move forward, because competition is so ingrained in this culture of ours.
When two of the top dogs in the game and they, you know, you both feel like you're the best, it's like, okay, now we got to have a showdown. You know, we saw it with Jay-Z and Nas before. But I just feel like more today it's more like stan culture. It's like, it makes it kind of weird. Because like back in the day, like Jay-Z and Nas went at it, but like I was a fan of both of them, you know, and most people were. And it was like, okay, it's okay. It's not.
That's a great point too. You know, I was a fan of both Jay and Nas, and I love Nas. Now, shout out to everybody in BX over at Boxton. I know that y'all think that I don't love Nas, but I love Nas. I love Nas. Boxton is so funny, by the way. There's a lot of Nas fans on Boxton, but they only show up to really defend Nas. So if you post like a great Nas song, it'll be almost crickets in the post. But if someone says, yo, man, Nas is hanging out with Diddy, I wonder what that was about, you'll get like 6 pages worth of responses and things like that. So a lot of Nas fans over there. I'm a Nas fan too, but I'm also very critical in general of everybody. You know, not necessarily critical to a default, but this is part of how I look at everything. And because I do this for a living, it's part of the job, right? You can't ask someone who's a journalist or a cultural commentator or a professional critic to not be critical. That makes no sense. But Jay versus Nas was one of those ones. Now, I loved both of them. At that point in time. But the difference between Jay and Nas for me is that I started off liking Nas a whole lot more than Hove, and over the time of their releases, it kind of shifted. So when the battle happened, I was more of a Nas fan because I wasn't that big of a fan of Nostradamus. I definitely have parts of I Am that I loved, but I was more disappointed in that project than I expected to be. Streets is Watching and Illmatic, those are 2 classic projects. But I was immediately like, oh, that takeover is crazy. I can't wait to see what happened with Ether. And I don't think people, and because there wasn't the internet, there was about a 3-month gap between when we finally got a response. Because Takeover came out on 9/11/2001, and I believe Ether came out on December 4th, 2001. I think Nas dropped that on his birthday. I can't remember, but his next project came out 3 months later. Right. So there was 3 months Nas had to figure out what he was going to do. This wasn't any of this, you got 24 hours to respond stuff. You know what I mean? And so even though the friction was there, we felt it in hip hop. It wasn't as palpable because there wasn't social media. We didn't have this super fan stan culture where there's a lot of people who really just like your reputation online. Maybe they love your music, maybe they don't. Maybe they're more fans of how you post or how you troll or whatever it is. Or there wasn't necessarily this feeling of us versus them in that battle. Now, East Coast, West Coast stuff was a little bit different because people were rocking with their region. I think that you can argue some Stan stuff happened during the, Biggie versus Pac stuff to a degree. But I don't think it was nothing like what the environment we're in now, just like what Metro is saying. But, shout out to all the Nas stands out there, man. Nas fans walked so J. Cole fans could run.
Not like, okay, I hate this side. It's like, the internet just makes it a little too wild now. But I feel like, it's good for the game. And as far as me being diplomatic, I mean, it's just entertainment at the end of the day. And, I have love and respect for all my collaborators. And, I just want to see everybody do the best and continue to help push this forward. Because we're all here to deposit in and uplift this genre and push it forward. This is our era, so it's really our responsibility to keep pushing it forward for the next one and so forth.
I love how he closed that. This is our era, and it's our responsibility to take this culture and push it forward. It is our responsibility. I was having a conversation the other day. I think it's in my Blue and Exile interview that's currently live. Check it out if you missed it. It's live for members. The full conversation is available for members. I can't remember if it was that or D1. Full conversation with D1, really inspirational conversation, by the way, is available for members. There's a clip that's out there now. But I personally feel like the silent majority in hip-hop is massive right now. And the reason I say that is because millennials and Gen X, this is the first time, we're the first generations to grow up with hip-hop. So we're the first, this hip-hop is getting to the point where for the first time, there's entire generations that are in their 30s, 40s, 50s, and 60s, I guess. You know what I mean? Like, hip-hop has never had this. And so this ethos that hip-hop is a young person's game, I challenge this all the time, especially, for example, when I talk about Andre 3000. No shots, he's my GOAT, you know what I'm saying, is Andre, Lupe, Kendrick. Those are my 3 greatest of all time, right? And the fanager in me The fanager in me doesn't like it that he's not rapping, and that's how I feel. I can feel like that if I want, so 1 second applause. But I think about that in this idea that hip-hop is a young man's game. Well, it was a young man's game because everybody was young, but now everybody is not young. And so, to Metro Boomin's point, everybody wants this culture to advance. And I feel like it's our time now, like he said. It's our time to be the ones to set the rules, to dictate the parameters of what is hip-hop and what's not hip-hop. I know the industry is worried about market share and selling records, and that's awesome. I have theorized that it's time for new genres anyway. If kids want to make up something else, that's fine with me. But I don't think everything needs to be lumped in and called hip-hop all the time. And I also think that we're the first generation to be in a position to spark those conversations. We're the first generation that has enough, that where there's enough of us to be the ones to dictate what we're going to rock with and what the culture's going to rock with or not. And this conversation with Metro Boomin really made me think about that. It really made me think about that. You know, it is our time. And, you know, it's something to consider because it's like what David Banner said last week. We have to defend hip-hop. It is entertainment, and everybody's trying to, and we like to think everybody's trying to push the culture forward and make a positive impact. But I don't think everybody really is. And who else would be able to call out those distinctions, or who else would be able to contextualize why that might be separate from the ethos that's inside of us when it comes to this culture of ours than us? You know, so I rock with what David Banner was saying about if you're a dentist or a doctor, defend hip hop. And I rock with what Metro Boomin's saying. You know, it's our time now. Let me know what you guys think about this. Let me know what you think about BBL Drizzy. Woo-hoo. I love that song. My name is Justin Hunt. Like, subscribe to the channel, follow The Company Man on everything. It's all happening.
Justin Hunt is here, it's all happening. Justin Hunt is here, it's all happening. The mathematical breakdown of this mighty game of rap we in. It's boom bapping. Systematical culture views us radical, it's all happening. Shaking hands and dapping it. Life through the lens of hip hop, from trip hop to yes, y'all, you don't stop, you don't stop. Justin Hunt is here, it's all happening. It's all happening, yes, it's all happening. Justin Hunt is here, it's all happening. It's all happening, yes, it's all happening.